Great. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome. My name is Nabeeha Kazi, and on behalf of the Alumni Association of Kansas State University, we're thrilled to welcome you, and I'm thrilled to host this Wildcat chat with Dr. Karen Goos titled Enrollment Management. I'm proud to chair the board of directors of the K-State Alumni Association, and I'm proud to be one of 5 K-State alums in my family. I graduated in 1996 from the College of Arts and Sciences and majored in political science and journalism and mass communications. But my family's K-State journey started with my father, who came to Manhattan from Pakistan in the late 1960s to pursue a PhD from the College of Agriculture. And of course, my siblings and I proudly followed in those footsteps, graduating from the College of Arts and Sciences and the College of Human Ecology. Today, I live in Washington, D.C. and have 2 future Wildcats in our household, and hopefully they will make the right choice. I'll make sure of it. And I work in public health and youth development here in the U.S. and around the world. So I want to thank you so much for participating in the Alumni Association's 4th Wildcat Chat, our virtual event where we're bringing our alumni and our friends together to provide them with really valuable information during these unprecedented times. We've received wonderful questions in advance from our alums, and obviously we don't have time to address all of them today, but we will do our best to cover some of them, not only in Dr. Goos's presentation, but also toward the end of the event. You'll also be able to add additional questions in your live chat. So without further ado, it's an honor for me to introduce today's special guest, Dr. Karen Goos. Dr. Karen Goos is the Vice Provost for Enrollment Management and has served as the university's first Chief Enrollment Officer since last November. In this role, she is providing strategic leadership and vision to all aspects of enrollment management at K-State, including domestic and international student recruitment, financial aid, and registration and transfer enrollment. Dr. Goos came to us from the University of Central Missouri, and her strong leadership and experiences have been really critical and instrumental as K-State implements a comprehensive multi-year strategic enrollment plan. So she's here with us today to provide an update on enrollment at our alma mater, and I'll go ahead and turn it over to you, Dr. Goos, at this time.
Great. Thank you so much for having me. And thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. I'm excited to be able to kind of share the K-State story and all the progress that we've made. I will say when I started last November, I thought we were going to really begin working on a strategic enrollment management plan. And we have done that, but it has been unlike any other time working and accelerating some things. So our priorities have shifted as our mode of operations have shifted, and the needs, and making sure that we've been really attuned to what our students need and what is going to be most important for them to be successful. So a couple of things. I just am so excited to be a part of K-State University. I knew when the position posted that I had to apply. I have been in the Midwest my whole life, and so the brand and the story of K-State has always been really strong. And I knew that if there was ever a chance, that would be a place where I would make the leap and want to be a part of that. So I'm just excited that I have that opportunity. Enrollment management is new to the university, and so I get a lot of questions about what is enrollment management, how does it fit in, and so I just wanted to share kind of my vision of the unit as we're really forming and norming the unit itself, but also the role and the profile of the university. First and foremost, my primary job is one of the things we want to increase the profile and recruitment of the university. And I think that's what most people think of as recruitment. And so we want to make sure that we tell the story. But we also want to make sure that we're providing access and opportunity that aligns with our land grant mission. So across for recruitment and for student success, making sure that we're eliminating those barriers related to registration, enrollment, making sure that we're creating an affordable an affordable education so students can achieve those educational goals, so that we can have more stories where we have 5 generations of K-Staters. That's the goal that we want to create. And so making sure that we provide access and student success for all students is one of the things that truly is the mission of the university. And that's our mission in enrollment management. So I've been asked today to share just a little bit. I have a presentation, so let me see if I can pull it up accurately. So we'll test my technical skills here. And so again, I just want to kind of give an update on the strategic enrollment management plan that we've been working on. I think it's important to know that while our priorities shifted, we've made some really good progress. And you never waste a great crisis. This is an opportunity for us to kind of accelerate some of the work that we had planned. And I'm going to kind of share some of that as we move forward. Here we go. The first thing I want to kind of go back in 2018, the university worked with Huron to put together a report. And it was based off of 4 pillars of student success: academic ability, financial capability, making sure that we had a sense of belonging and wellness. And I bring this back because as we kind of reflect on the last 6 months, these are more important than ever. And I think it just shows the foresight of the university to be able to put some real meat on what truly is important and how sustainable that is, right? These things are more important today than they ever have been as we start to think about enrollment management and the long-term success of the university, but also long-term success of our students. And so we've continued to make sure that we're going back to, are we creating a sense of belonging? Are we considering student wellness and making sure that we provide a high quality academic experience at affordable rates? So just wanted to bring that back. As the Huron came through, they met with everyone on campus and started really taking a look, unpeeling the onion where we had opportunities to improve and opportunities for growth. And it came into kind of 7 different themes and created some strategic plans and actions that we could kind of move forward with. And this was all done prior to my arrival. The university's done a lot of work over the last couple of years. And so the plan was kind of formalized and some recommendations by the time that I came in November. And my primary role has begun to evaluate whether those are still relevant and begin executing on those. So what I'd like to do tonight is share a little bit of progress, particularly in the spring, that we made in each of these areas. And then I'll make sure I'll spend some time that you guys can ask me some questions as well. The first thing, again, the progress in plan, they identified that we needed some additional infrastructure. Our technology and our systems and our processes were clunky. They created, again, that barriers for students. And so we really wanted to think about how we could leverage the technology to streamline and create a more personalized recruitment experience. So the first thing we did is we purchased a CRM, a customer relation management system, and we built all of our events in it and started developing our communications. It allows us to create more personalized communications to our students. So we are working on that, and we've begun drip marketing campaigns. So when a student comes into our system, it's not that we're manually sending them an email. Automatically, based off what they do or who they are, we can send them automated communications out of our CRM. And we're excited that we've been able to do that. We knew that we needed to take a more personalized approach for students. We had some data that shared that kind of based of who you are, where you're from, whether you're in state or out of state, or your personal interests, we wanted to make sure that we were catering and giving you the answers that weren't just generic, but that were what you were asking for. And one of the big lifts we did is that we had a number of students who request information online. And we were able to put that so it goes directly into our CRM. They get a personalized landing page when they complete that form based off the information they've told us. And then that puts them directly into our communication flow. So they'll begin receiving emails and communications based off the information that they've given us. So a really personalized approach and giving them the information they're specifically asking for. The other thing that we worked on is we knew that we were getting different names of students and we weren't getting as many into the system as we could have. One of the things I noticed when I first came is that for the size of institution we are, the number of inquiries and applicants that we had didn't really align. It was much smaller than it probably should be related to the size of institution we are and really the size of institution we aspire to be. And so we've purchased additional names and we've imported over 350,000 student names into our system so that we can begin recruiting them at a higher level. And so that's going to be a big difference for us just to have the number of names in there that we had not done. And I heard a lot that when I first came from alumni, that, maybe we weren't paying attention or we didn't have them in our system and we weren't recruiting them. And so this allows us that capacity to do so. And then again, we started case management approach on our recruitment. So again, the idea of that personalization, how can we leverage that technology to make sure that we're as personalized as possible and that we know who you are. And anytime that you work with a recruiter in the college versus work with a recruiter in our admissions office, that you're not retelling your story, that we kind of already have that shared information with that shared database. And that can be so powerful as we begin to think about recruitment as a university-wide effort and not just one office. We've made some changes to marketing communications, and I hope that you'll start to see some of those. If you go to our website, you'll start to see the changes. We did roll out a new brand campaign. We know that our students are really interested about where the world is going to take them. What kind of career and success are they going to have? And so we want to tell them that don't make the world wait. You can change the world. You are an impactful leader. That is what K-State, that's the kind of student that K-State creates. And so we really have rolled that out to make sure that it resonates with all of our students. And you'll start to see that changing our website is one of the things, the feedback that we've gotten to make sure that students can find things as easily as possible. And then we've worked on focusing in on not necessarily a major, but career academic pathways, knowing that students aren't sure when they first start what they want to do or what they want to study or which college they want to go to. So making sure that we meet the students where they are in the recruitment process, in that exploration process, and then helping them navigate to the correct major is going to be one of the things that's really important for us. And we're doing that. We're taking those academic interests and we're putting those on social media. We're putting those out with our digital media buys as far as our recruitment process. So we've gotten some really good results from that. And I appreciate our Department of Communications and Marketing have really made some great strides to help us get that word out. One of the other things, again, those themes were financial aid and sustainability. We know that we need to create a really affordable way and to increase access and affordability. Again, that land grant mission. And so there were some things that we had planned, but there were also some things that this spring, this is one of the areas that really came to light, and we knew we needed to pivot and escalate some of our priorities in this area. So we did work with the KSU Foundation to improve our K-State Scholarship Network experience so that we can streamline and make sure students were able to apply for those foundation scholarships easier. The other thing we had to do this spring is we knew that we needed to extend our award deadlines, and we did so, particularly for our in-state markets. We did both for our out-of-state as well, but we needed to really extend that deadline. We knew students were waiting to make decisions and really were unsure, especially in that March and April timeframe, about the time that a lot of our deadlines were happening. And they just had such a change in income that we wanted to be accessible and flexible. And so we made that change this spring. We improved our communications with our scholarship award letters. We will have a goal this fall to really, when students are admitted, to really quickly give those merit awards and make sure that early in December that they get their full package so that they can see what it's going to cost to go to the university. And related to that, we actually developed our net price calculator, make sure that we're going to create as seamless and easy and as transparent so that you can really figure out what it costs to go to the university. That has sometimes been a little bit more complex, and we're really trying to streamline it so that students don't have to guess or go do a worksheet, that we're really transparent and tell them exactly what it costs, and then work with them to identify ways that we can kind of close that gap based off of their need. And then we knew this spring we had to stand up some emergency aid. And again, this was both for our recruitment, but particularly our returning students. As we flipped to the remote, we had students who had additional expenses or a change in their situation. So we had students who lost jobs themselves, whose families' situation changed, and so I'm really proud of the university and the network that supported that we were able to pull together an emergency website, a referral form, so that anybody in the institution, the student themselves, or if they weren't ready to raise their hands, an advisor could let the financial aid office know. We would proactively outreach those students if we thought that they might be struggling or had a situation. And we were very successful in helping a number of students get the aid they needed. Recruitment is always, again, that was one of the themes that came forward. And again, this is always the one that gets asked, what's our undergraduate recruitment and what does that look like? So I want to talk just a little bit about it. We had to change a lot, and we will continue to change quite a bit for the fall. Knowing that we are continuing to be in the pandemic, our recruiters aren't going to be able to go out to college fairs or high schools like they have in the past. And so we're shifting and pivoting the way that we're recruiting. And I love how innovative everybody's being at the university about how we can meet that need. So in the spring, before COVID-19 hit, we had decided that we were going to eliminate any on-campus event fees. We wanted to, again, make sure that we're accessible. When we host on-campus events again, we'll go back to that. I don't want students to have to pay to come to explore what it takes to be on campus. I want them to feel like, we're inviting them in. They are our guests. And so we really want to kind of roll out the red carpet for them. Because of COVID, again, we had to reduce our orientation and registration fees. We've moved and pivoted that to online, and we provided a parent orientation as well. And we did that in phases. So in June, we did kind of registration and advising. In July, we rolled out our online orientation, and today we welcomed our Wildcat warm-up freshmen onto campus, which is really exciting. It's fun to see them all in their small groups, building and building that community in a safe way. We kind of did a lift and shift for the spring with our virtual events. We're going to pivot that a little bit. We've had some lessons learned. We actually had pretty good feedback and pretty good participation, but we found that some of our events, we kind of just moved the whole event the same way. And so we'll be changing that a little bit in the fall to be a little bit more focused and shorter timeframes, because sometimes we would have students on there for a couple of hours, and found that online that just gets to be too long. We had talked about doing some of these things, increasing our virtual presence, particularly as we think about expanding our out-of-state markets and our international markets. But for us, this is a way that we escalated. We had to move a little quicker than we had anticipated. So we put up the live chat with the recruiters. We developed a virtual resources page. There is a virtual tour on there. We're continuing to evolve the virtual tour. We'll do that this fall so that we have more of campus on there. And then we participated in on-campus fairs and things like that. So the virtual piece of it was always on our radar, but that was one of the things that flipped to the #1 priority, as you can expect, this last fall. A couple of things that were changes. Again, part of enrollment management is not just the recruitment, but thinking about how we streamline and create policies and processes to help support student success. And we had to do some of that and be considerate. And so this spring, understanding that our university, but also our students had a little bit of whiplash. One day they went out for spring break and then they just never came back to campus physically, that they had to learn how to learn in a remote environment. And so we did implement the A-Pass-Fail grading option for all students on campus during the spring term to provide a little bit of relief because that was not something that was expected or planned for. And the other thing, knowing that students again had some financial disruptions, we reduced the amount of holds for students' accounts. Typically, we have holds. If you owe the university large amounts of money, we don't let you enroll. And we dropped that, or we dropped our amount. I'm sorry, we increased the amount that we would allow out there outstanding, knowing that, again, student situations change, and we think that that has really assisted students to gain some time to figure out how to pay those fees. I will share that being new to the university, we're continuing to restructure enrollment management. We have some new student services, international recruitment, all used to be different units. And what we have found is that we can gain synergy and we can gain momentum if we're having these coordinated conversations. Recruitment is recruiting all students to the university. And so, international students in processing, the left hand needs to know what the right is doing. And so we've developed an Office of Recruitment and Admissions where all of these units kind of fall under the same umbrella and be working as one. So I'm really excited about that. So it will help us, again, streamline our communications to future students and not get lost. And again, that's the idea of reducing those barriers. We'll have an executive director. We'll make an announcement, I believe, this week on Friday of our executive director. I'm so excited about bringing this individual to campus. The experience that they're going to bring is phenomenal and one of the top in the country. So I think that I will just share that I'm very excited. And the other piece that we moved through is the K-State Advising Corps, knowing that we need to continue to create a pipeline of students, but also in line with our mission, again, at that access and outreach, making sure that we aligned with their mission, what they're doing into our recruitment offices and Office of Enrollment Management. So we're excited to have them. They've moved around a little bit. I'm excited to have Megan and her team, and I met with all the advisors yesterday, to be out there making sure that we help students go to college and that college going culture, because that's the piece in the foundation that helps support the university, but also just helps support education overall. So we're excited to have them be a part of our team. So a couple of the things with the Huron report was that we wanted to focus on our out-of-state market. And again, just wanted to share a little bit of progress, a little bit of data. I tried not to be too data deep today because I can certainly get in the weeds when we talk about data and analysis. But I know one of the questions was, how's that going? And so I will share that we've made really good progress in that. So we initiated two initiatives. We increased our Midwest Student Exchange, where students get a tuition discount of 100 to 150% of the in-state tuition. So they're not paying the full out-of-state rate for the Midwest Student Exchange program. And then knowing that we had and we actually had that before, but we extended it to all majors. So any student from those that met the academic criteria for all majors rather than a subset of majors were eligible for this tuition benefit. And then we had we added founders. We had some states where we have high alumni participation, and we were seeing lots of interest. And so we increased and added these states on the bottom to our founders, which would be the same thing, same academic criteria, they'd be eligible for 150%. We saw a pretty significant increase in our applications and admits overall from these states. And so really started trending. We were really optimistic we'd see a big jump in these students. You can see, and again, I always have an asterisk on 2020. We're not done recruiting. We still have a week left before the start of classes. So we may have students still showing up. But as of last week, we were down just a little bit in our Midwest Student Exchange. What we know is COVID has had an impact on enrollment. Students who are out of state sometimes feel like they can maybe stay closer to home. It might be a safer, more controlled environment. And we're seeing that just a little bit. But conversely, we are seeing a little bit of a jump in our founders. So we were hoping for a bigger lift. I think there's really good momentum here. We're going to continue to do this. But we do know that even though we saw great interest, those decisions over the last few months have made an impact on enrollment. The other thing, again, we just want to continue to see is our freshmen. You can see overall, our freshman applications and admits were up this year. We were really optimistic in the spring about where that would end. We implemented the Common App, we implemented our communications, and students responded. We did see a big jump in our applications and admits, and so that's the piece that we wanted to see. We are going to be down just a little bit in our freshmen enrolled because, again, we're starting to see that attrition. Students are just a little bit cautious about starting this fall with that uncertainty, and actually have some data to support that. So we do think that we'll bounce back, but we really like the momentum, knowing that some of those things that we put into place were really making an impact. And I think that if we continue in that direction, we'll start to see that freshman enrolled follow the trend with our freshman applications and admits. The other side, and one of the things that we'll be putting back onto the plate as a priority, is looking at our transfer students. Now, we didn't quite see the same increase in applications and admits for a transfer. So we have a group of us working together to say, okay, we're not getting the result that we had hoped for here. I will share that we're going to go ahead and move forward with the Common App for transfer. So we're going to follow suit with some of the things that we put in place for freshmen, and we're going to go ahead and implement that for our transfer population as well, because we think that we can see the same results that we did with our freshmen if we went ahead and move forward with some of those initiatives for transfers. So I think it's optimistic. We're a little disappointed we didn't see that same trend, but I do think that it is making a difference, and had it not been for COVID, I think we would have seen just a little bit different results. Somebody had asked me again where the data was overall. And so by freshmen, sophomores, juniors, seniors, we're going to be down in enrollment just a little bit because we've seen a smaller freshman class come every single year. And you can see the seniors, right, are larger because those were the larger classes that we were bringing in 4 or 5 years ago. So we do plan on being down in enrollment, but that's something that we certainly expected. One thing I wanted to share is we did do an admitted student survey, and we did have the admitted student survey. We are starting to get some ideas of what's important to students and where we're not hitting the mark. And one of the things I wanted to bring forward is that our alumni success is one of those things that can certainly we want to tell the story of the alumni. It's one of the areas where we know we do really, really well, but the students aren't hearing it as much as we'd like. So I will share that'll be one of the things moving forward that we really want to move forward. And I know we're running out of time. I get long-winded. I get excited about it. So I want to make sure you guys have the opportunity to ask some questions. And so I will just share some of the next steps. We're going to reimagine our fall visit schedule. We're going to change and use multi-channel communications. We're changing some of our direct marketing collateral pieces. I know that's been asked for. And we're going to continue to use the technology to support our recruitment. So what are some things, I'm going to stop there, and some questions that I can take from you to make sure that we have time for you guys to ask some questions.
Wonderful, Dr. Goos. We do have some great questions. Again, a few that have been submitted on our chat and a few that we received earlier. So, you know, I guess I'll start with the question about how you see your role as an asset to the continual improvement of race relations, and maybe a build on that, race relations and also the sense of belonging on campus, which is so critical for retention.
Yeah, one of the things we know is the sense of belonging is going to be essential this year and every year, but particularly this year, coming back to campus. And so what some of our colleges are reaching out and creating small groups and having some of those diversity and inclusion conversations. They are welcoming them to campus and talking about some of their fears, and we talk about wellness. And we're really trying to build those networks in those small groups by the majors. And so they're also embedding, some of those are embedding their peer ambassadors and mentors. And so we're being really intentional about how we outreach and build those connections. Again, like I said, we're having Wildcat Welcome, but they're in small groups. So where they can build those strong connections with people who are, you know, they're going to be kind of working and living and with within the university. As it relates to my role around diversity and inclusion, I will tell you that it's critical that I am a leader and that I demonstrate the passion. This is one of the things that I have built my career around. I used to be just fully in charge of student success. I've worked with the National Equity Project at other institutions. So I'm excited to be able to engage in our university action plan and bring some of those ideas and experiences so that we can actively move forward. One of the things that I've been so impressed with since those conversations came forward is that the active commitment towards actually making a change on campus and not just talking about it, but really doing some things about it, making sure that we're engaging students and that we're engaging our community. It's been really exciting time to be a part of that, honestly, to be a part of something that I'm so passionate about and that I know that our students are passionate about. So I see myself as a leader. I also need to be a role model. You know, and help educate all students. I tend to think diversity is about making sure everybody feels included and making sure that everybody feels like they have a voice. And so that's my role in that.
That's wonderful. You know, related to that, we've gotten a couple of questions and related to supporting students from a needs-based perspective. And I know we are very committed to ensuring that there is equitable access and experience and being able to pursue your K-State degree. So the question is what are some of the steps that you're thinking of or that have been taken for needs-based scholarship to support need-based students? In the United States, there's a disproportionate number of them who come from underrepresented populations. So if you could talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, one of the first things we did, we wanted to do an analysis. We actually have seen a decrease and a decline in the number of students who are Pell eligible who are coming to K-State. And so we're being really intentional and thoughtful about that's a target, a population where we need to do a little bit better job. So we've taken a look at we do have some need-based scholarships that are just university-based. We have our freshman Wildcat, and then we have for returning students in Eisenhower. And then we're partnering with the Kansas State University Foundation on ways that we can scale that up and make it more transparent to students. So again, students understand that affordability, we're not waiting for students to raise their hand and say, I need help, but that we're being more proactive. We know who the students are who have what we consider a need gap. Again, based off of their aid versus what it totally costs to go to attend school, and who may struggle closing that gap for them. So we're going to be much more proactive in identifying those students and trying to figure out ways that we can increase their overall package at the beginning so that they know exactly, they don't have to wait for a crisis to happen, because that only just takes them off track and off focus from their academic career.
Yeah, I love that. I think it's so important, the continuity piece, but also having the peace of mind that you're part of our family for the long run, right? And we're planning for that from the outset. Another question, Dr. Goos, that we've received is a specific question to California, and you may want to answer it for California, but I think there's also a cross-cutting component to this. Is we have a lot of recruitment, very heavy recruitment activity in some of our surrounding states. What about other states where we haven't maybe had such a strong or deep ongoing presence, but where we think there's great opportunity to recruit students, for example, from the state of California, but I'm sure there are others that are top of your list. So comment on that a little bit.
Yeah, so it goes back to, I can't put a recruiter all the time. I can't put a regional recruiter all the time in every state. But one of the things that we've done is we have increased our name buys in those states where we know we have heavy, large alumni population, because we know that those that are connected to K-State come to K-State, send their sons, daughters, cousins, uncles to K-State. So we've increased those name buys. We've increased our communication to those students. We also have increased, again, the scholarship tuition benefit for those students. And so we're continuing to find ways to outreach them and tell the story. I would share in California, it's working. We actually will be up from students from California this fall, even with the pandemic. So what we're seeing is the efforts that we're making are incremental. And that, again, I always tell people they snowball over time, because once you've had an experience, you go back and tell that experience, right? Once you've lived here, once you've been here, it changes you. And you can't help but kind of share that with everybody else. So what we see is we'll start to get some momentum. And I think we'll continue to see that growth in that area.
So just to build on that, what is the role of alumni in supporting your recruitment and retention efforts?
So like I said before, there are kind of three things that we're asking for. One is going to be to tell your story. I'm going to be encouraging, I'm going out and working with all the colleges and encouraging them to reach out to their alumni to get those success stories, to get those career outcome stories, because we know that's what students are telling us is most important, and that we might not be doing that quite as well as some of our competitors. And so you are our best recruiters. Tell the story of K-State. Tell how we have helped you create a foundation for success in your life. There is nothing more powerful for that, especially right now. When students want to go out and change the world, they want to know that K-State can make a difference in the trajectory of their life. The second one is one of the challenges we will have this fall is we aren't going to be able to go out, particularly this fall, to high schools. We aren't going to be able to go out to all the college fairs. So we might be having a little bit more difficulty trying to understand who's out there who might be interested in K-State, and are we for sure getting them into our system. So we'll be working on trying to create an easy format or easy form. But if you have somebody that you think we should recruit, send us their name and maybe their academic interests and some information to apply at kstate.edu, or you can email me directly, and I'm going to make sure that they get into the system so that we can really actively recruit them. You, again, like I said, you're our best network, you're our best recruiters. And then as we continue to do build our need-based aid, we know that that's an area that we've struggled. And so we want to make sure that you give what you can. Sometimes it'll be your time, sometimes it'll be your money, but we want to make sure that we provide those student scholarships and support the scholarships that are available for the need-based aid and the Alumni Association offers, because that continues to make a large impact when we know that cost can be such a barrier for those students. So those would be my three. You know, if you can do anything, that will help us grow and move forward.
Right. So let's stay on this recruitment conversation a little bit. And, the question comes, it's actually a very tactical question, but I think an interesting one. I'm sure that you've been pondering it is, first of all, is K-State going to continue to be doing and developing printed materials, and to build on that, what works better, all virtual online or heavier on the print side? How do those two worlds come together in terms of the impact and the message we want to give to our potential future students?
Yeah, that's a great question. And, we've been given this opportunity to just blow it all up, right? What we've always done and rolled over, we know we can't do. It's not even an option. And so we're really capitalizing on that opportunity to say, we've got to reimagine. We got to reimagine how we work with students. We've got to reimagine how we recruit students. So we might as well use it as an opportunity to change the way that we're doing things. So we are taking a look at all of our direct mail, the pieces that we would have taken out on a college fair. We're thinking about, we're redesigning that, and maybe we are going to be making that into a mailer, so that we'll mail that out to students. We can't move everything online and virtually. One, because we know parents are influencers, and when you send things in the mail, mom and dad also read those and pay attention to them. And so we want to make sure that we're getting the information, but also students like mail, and they like knowing that they're important or that they've sent the message. So one of the things we're going to be doing is shifting away from event postcards, which is what we've traditionally done in the past, and high school visits. And we're really moving into creating some personalized, real-time marketing materials that are going to be relevant in their recruitment cycle. Yeah.
Great, thank you so much. Another question that has come forward, shifting a little bit to the international global side of things, is not only on international undergrad and international grad students, how many do we have, but also the recruitment and retention of those students, and any challenges around visas and being able to stay in the country.
That's a great question. So we traditionally have anywhere from 1,300 to 1,400 international students on campus. We've done a good job of able to retain those students. Where we struggle this year is new incoming students. We're going to be down about 150 new incoming students. We still have new international students on campus, but those numbers are much smaller. We're seeing a lot of students hopefully defer to the spring, and that we'll start to see those students come back, but they did have trouble getting visas. The good news, we did get a little bit nervous. The Department of Ed originally said that if they took an online class or all online classes, that they would revoke visas and send students home. And I'm happy to announce that they completely reversed that decision. And again, the advocacy of so many educators in the United States really made an impact to reverse that decision, and knowing that students, we need students as much as they need us, right? To be a part of our community. And so it doesn't matter if they're taking an online class or an online class, we're able to support those students. I know that our international student services, I just spoke with them this afternoon, they're having that kind of 30-minute sessions with all of our incoming new students to build that community and support for student retention. So we're doing a great job with that. And we're hoping that we'll, again, see those new students that have deferred to the spring kind of show up, have the opportunity to show up in the spring.
That's terrific to hear. I know it was a huge coup, a huge win when we heard that decision. And I can tell you that so many international students are really excited to be able to continue and be part of our community, even if it is virtual. So one last question around the retention piece that you mentioned. And I'm curious to hear about your, maybe big opportunities you see, things that you're excited to put in place. You highlighted some of them, but the big opportunities around retention of current students, whether that ends up being more virtual or in person, but what is exciting for you? What are you looking forward to implementing there?
Yeah. So a lot of the retention, it was one of the pieces I kind of skipped over in my presentation, is my good news piece, which of course I'd skip the good news, right? Is I will share that we're really on track, and I don't want to jinx it, but we're on track to have one of the best retention rates in university history. We are up in student retention, which is really phenomenal feat considering we're in the middle of a pandemic where there's so much uncertainty. And students are wanting to come back to campus and be a part of it. And I would tell you that a lot of that has to do with the efforts of our student life staff and our Office of Student Success staff. We put some policies into place where it's, again, part of my role to be able to do that, to be able to identify and reduce barriers. But the outreach and care that our faculty staff did in each of those areas, we did an outreach to be able to identify, are you doing okay? Are you on track? Let us know if you're having trouble, and referring to resources and being, again, that proactive piece versus waiting for students to kind of fall back and dig a hole sometimes they can't dig out of. And I think that's really been a difference maker in our approach, is being so proactive and really connecting them with the resources before the students really start to fall behind. And again, if all things hold true, we're going to have some really great news as far as our student retention. And again, what's so important for that is means students are really continuing to progress towards their graduation and educational goals.
Well, thank you, Dr. Goos. This was wonderful information, incredibly valuable. I know it's an incredibly busy time as students and faculty and staff all prepare to start classes next week. You talked about the beautiful K-State story, right? And how we tell that story, how we want to tell that story. But I thought it was so interesting just to hear you also speak to how incredibly intentional that we are in making sure that this story is experienced day in and day out by every single one of our students, and doing that through their rich K-State experience, the sense of belonging that you highlighted, a demonstration of how we are highly responsive to student needs, and so much more. And so all of this, of course, keeps our students here. It inspires them to remain engaged with K-State throughout their lives. And so truly sincere thanks in joining us today, but also, quite frankly, your vision forward, Dr. Goos, and your work, because it is absolutely critical to our university today and the here and now, but it also directly links to having a vibrant, long-term engaged alumni community. And I can tell you that the Alumni Association is steadfast in that commitment and being the link for life for our students. So you're part of this formula, and you're part of this energy and enthusiasm that we have for the future. So thank you again. For those of us who are attending, I hope you'll join our next Wildcat chat, which is Thursday, August 20th at 5 p.m. And it is with Taylor Bratt, who's going to be sharing his take on K-State football recruiting and all things purple. He's a terrific speaker. If you haven't had a chance to hear him, high energy, and it's going to be an informative event. So there'll be more details to come. You can register on the link through the Alumni Association's website. And if any of you have ideas on other topics that you'd like to hear more about, please contact the Alumni Association. I believe there'll be a link or an email that's shared on the chat function. So thanks again for joining us this afternoon, and go Cats!